Um, Today I'm going to be interviewing my father, who is an attorney, and he was born in West Milford, New Jersey. The question I'm going to be asking him today is, what has the image been of woman, and how has that image changed throughout the modern era and throughout history? So, the answers to that question?
Well, if we're talking about Western culture, meaning Western Europe and in the United States, it depends. In the political or public sphere, the role of women generally was viewed as being subordinate to that of men based on centuries of tradition. However, domestically or in non-public areas, for the most part, women had an important role in many aspects of social and economic development here in the United States and in Western Europe for that matter, often providing crucial background support to leaders and to the male-oriented societies that existed. Furthermore, they often ran the homes, tended fields, raised the children, provided schooling for the children, provided first aid and medical care for children in their community, and often served as a social conscience of the community. Political change for women in the United States began in or around 1840 with the Seneca Falls Convention held in Seneca Falls, New York, where women for the first time, leading women for the first time, gathered to organize a convention to agitate for the right of women to vote and to have a larger say in public life. The convention did not achieve its aims immediately, but from that point forward, through the rest of the 19th century and into the early 20th century, the calls for women's suffrage in the United States grew louder and stronger every year. With the advent of World War I, with so many men being sent overseas, men and boys being sent overseas, it made it easier for suffragettes to get state legislatures to pass the necessary legislation and then ratification of constitutional amendment that allowed for women the right to vote in 1920. Since then, women were a vital part of the economic, military, and political growth of the United States, notably during the Depression and World War II. Women took on increasingly more prominent positions in public life, in writing, in newspaper writing, in aeronautics, of course, in industry, particularly during World War II, when many skilled labor was drafted or conscripted into the service to fight in the war. Many women went into the factories that made possible the prodigious production of munitions and implements of war for the American fighting forces, as well as the fighting forces of all our allies. And that just not here. The British women in the British Empire also went to work, and in the Soviet Union, women were actually conscripted into frontline service and fought in combat, as they did in China as well. After the troops came home in the 1940s, it was going to be very hard to tell women to go back into their traditional roles as being mothers and supporters of men when they contributed so much while men were gone, showing that they could do a job just as well as a man could. although in the 1970s there was an effort to pass an Equal Rights Amendment. That amendment did fail. Nonetheless, in 1964, with the passage of the Civil Rights Act, women were also guaranteed equal protection under the law in all aspects of American public and political life. And today you'll find that most universities have a better than 50% enrollment of women. Scientific, high scientific and political positions are held by women. If you look at the number of people entering the professions, with the exception of engineering, there are more women in law schools today. There are women entering the accounting fields in very high numbers. So a lot of traditionally male-dominated industries have now become equally occupied by women. And in fact, today I believe the Marine Corps and the Army are holding trials to allow women to serve as frontline combat troops in the military, not just as support pilots or support troops on the ground.